Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. My name is Raieste. I'm your host for today. We're excited to have you join from all over the globe and as we explore the future of tax administration. At Nortal, we value collaboration and knowledge sharing. Today, we have a great lineup of experts ready to offer valuable insights and practical strategies. In the next 45 minutes or so, we'll hear individual presentations from 3 distinguished speakers on trends and challenges in tax administration. Afterward, we'll have a panel discussion as well. A couple of quick housekeeping questions and notes before we get started. We would really hope that you also engage with us throughout the webinar and feel free to submit your questions through the MS forums. And the link is already shared in the chat. So please submit and we'll try to go through as many as possible in the webinar today. If we have too many questions and lack time, we will also go through the questions and share the responses afterwards in the event chat. And with that, let's get started. I'm very pleased to introduce our first speaker, Sir Edward Troup. Sir Edward is a distinguished expert of tax administration, having served as the former executive chair and first permanent secretary of the UK HM Revenue and Customs Service. His career includes significant roles such as tax partner at Simmons & Simmons and advisor to Chancellor Kenneth Clarke. Today, Sir Edward will shed light on the evolving landscape of tax systems. Sir Edward, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tavi. It's great to be here. Tax administration is one of the most interesting issues in public policy. It's about taking money away from people and using it for the public good. And it's never easy, whatever country you're in. I'm going to say a little bit about the pressures on tax administration and the path for reform for all tax administrations for the future. For all tax administrations, there are all sorts of external pressures which are common across the world. There's pressure from public everywhere for more public services. And there's therefore pressure on all governments to raise more tax. But there's a resistance to actually having new taxes and having taxes put up. So the pressure on tax administrations is to get more for less, to get more money out of the taxes there are, to get more money for public services. And that's universal. But beyond that, there are changes across the world. There's globalization, there's digitization. And what that means is that what the tax administrations have to look at is sort of drifting away. No longer is it physical transactions. They have to be smart. They have to be aware of what businesses are doing across the globe. They have to find ways of allocating profits. And they have to find ways of tracking down transactions which no longer exist in physical forms. And these, of the list I've put here, are the 2 biggest changes, 2 biggest pressures on tax administrations. There are tax administrations of all kinds around the world, and although they all have the same problems, there are tax administrations like the one I've come from, HMRC in the UK, which I've described as an old world tax administration. The UK has the benefit of having been collecting taxes in a fairly sophisticated format for well over 300 years. That comes with a whole lot of legacy, and I've listed some of the issues here which cause problems for the old world traditional tax administrations. We've got a practical problem that we've got a lot of aging workforce. We don't have a very young workforce. But the real legacy that we have is we have legacy systems. We have legacy IT systems, which means that the move to digitization, which is the way everything has to go, is burdened. When I started at HMRC, I think we had 169 different legacy IT systems. And that makes any sort of change incredibly difficult. Also, when we move forward into the digital world, there's a great deal of concern about privacy. And both Janek and Andres will talk about this, we need to move into a more digital world. We need to use data better. The public are concerned about the impacts of that on their data and their privacy, the big brother concern. And that's a specific problem, I think, for some of the older world, particularly the more entrenched democracies. We also have a very complex tax system, and that itself is another form of legacy. So the old world tax administrations have those challenges to face. The new tax administrations, and by that I mean not New World, although obviously the New World, Sub-Saharan Africa, and actually some of the Middle East jurisdictions that are having to shift from resource funding of public services as oil and gas resources decline through to more traditional tax systems. These tax administrations don't have the legacy that the old tax administrations have. So they have some real opportunities to design things from scratch, but they're often starting from a low base. If you look at sub-Saharan Africa, average tax as a percentage of GDP is around 15%, but to fund anything like the level of public services that their citizens require, they need something like 25%. So the pressure to increase revenues is even more acute there. And starting from that low base means there's the lack of public understanding, public acceptance of tax systems, and the challenge the tax administrations face in building a culture of tax compliance. But the new tax administrations do have terrific, what I would call greenfield opportunities. They can build good digital systems from scratch, and sitting here in Tallinn, I'm sitting in a country which has got one of the best digital tax systems in the world. They can also design their new taxes efficiently. And they can build a system of compliance for tax administration, which is not, as it is in the UK, built on an expectation that there's a tax office round the corner where I can go down and meet my local tax inspector and talk to him or her about my tax affairs, but where everything can be built with the expectation that it can be digitally delivered from a system in your pocket. So where does that take us as the ingredients for reform? Well, digitization is, it's a short word, but it's quite a long word, but it's a single word which covers an enormous challenge. But moving away from paper and paper type transactions to a digital world reduces the cost to serve, helps tax administrations do more for less. But for those of us with legacy systems, shifting from both the mindset and the physical reality of completing forms on pieces of paper to a digital world, it can be extraordinarily difficult. The transformation also requires moving from a climate of enforcement to one of compliance. Many tax jurisdictions have operated historically on the basis that tax collection was about going out and finding the tax that should be paid, chasing down the exceptions, chasing down the taxpayers who are not paying, rather than encouraging a climate of voluntary compliance. And building a system where there is both voluntary compliance and digital allows better focus of the tax administrations onto case selection for audit. So far as possible, tax administrations would rather not do audit. It would be nice if everybody paid their taxes on time voluntarily, but the world is not like that. There are always the exceptions. Sometimes there are people who need help. Sometimes there are people and businesses who deliberately are paying less tax than they should. Being smarter and more accurate in case selection, making audit data-driven, picking out the cases that really are going to produce tax yield is a secret to good reform. And finally, and often controversially, particularly in the old jurisdictions like the UK, is the use of better data sharing across government. I mean, that can be used purely for tax compliance purposes. The more the tax administration knows about who owns property, who owns cars, who's been spending money, the better they can focus on where there may be tax loss, the better and more accurately they can pre-populate tax returns. But this in turn gives concerns for privacy and data sharing, and that is something which, as I say, in the UK has proved quite controversial. All of this needs some sort of contract, some sort of agreement, and some sort of understanding by the public of what tax is there for. Tax collection which just goes out into a country, out into the population, and tells citizens this is what they've got to pay will never succeed as well as one which has been properly sold. And the buy-in of politicians to the tax system, the tax administration, to buy into the message and to reinforce the message of what tax is there for and why the tax administration is being reformed in the way we are seeking to reform it is absolutely essential. And I hope that both Janek and Andres will be able to expand on how that can be achieved in this and other countries. Thanks.
Thank you, Sir Edward. Thank you very much for this. Now I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, Janek Rozov. Janek is the Deputy Director General for Development at the Estonian Tax and Customs Board, where he leads advancements in e-governance. And previously, he was the Strategy Director at the Ministry of Interior and has also driven digital service innovations at the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications in Estonia. Janek will talk about the future of digital public services. Janek, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here and share with you our ideas about what we mean under the post-digital tax administration. We have few thoughts of that. I'm very glad to share it with you. But first of all, I have to open some context where we are in Estonia from different perspectives. Yes, we are quite digital country, or even most digital country, and I'm very glad that the Tax and Custom Board is the part of that. And in every step what we've done, we understand that all things what we are doing, it's very strongly connected with all our digital society that we have here in Estonia. And of course, we are very proud that first e-service which offered for our taxpayers or for our customers was made in tax authority. And maybe it will be interesting for you to know why it's so. Because in Estonia, we decided that digitalization is the way to do things better, easier, and more efficient. And for us, it was one way to survive, to collect the taxes in a very fast, smart, and easy manner. Because in Estonia, 85% of our budget, it's totally consists of different taxes what we are collecting. And after that, all those taxes we divided to different public services. And for doing that, we really need a very smooth, easy environment to paying taxes. And our main idea in the beginning was that you have to create an environment which is really easy for using. And the idea was that if it's easy to pay taxes, people will do it. And if it's quite complicated, we will try, avoid, and find out the solution how to not pay taxes. It's maybe a point of view of taxation. On our hand, we also have quite good environment for businesses. We are able to create business in a very fast manner, which is mean that we also have to be very fast on collecting taxes. Okay, let's start. What we think under the post-digital tax administration. Today, we have a lot of data, what we're collecting from different parties, from private sector, from private persons, and unfortunately, we can give back something. We just collect, and tax, and tax, and tax. And we decided that what happened if all infrastructure and all information system will change the information directly in total real-time manner, what we as a tax authority could offer to our taxpayers. And we decided what we quite good on ecosystem point of view, but what our clients really need, we need seamless and totally automated tax environment, which helps them in understanding how state is work. It helps businesses in daily life to provide some direct or general economic data. It could be possible to share the data between the different companies to understand how it goes in a particular business. And I'm very glad that I can give you some idea or example how it will look like in near future. Of course, we have different roles. I, as Janek Rozov, as a private person, or I am as a representative of the businesses, I have different actions in communication with tax authority. For me, as for Janek, the main service is how to pay taxes in very fast and simple manner through a few clicks. It's one point of view, but what I really want to know, how my taxes is divided to society, how my taxes goes to different public services. And it's very important to give back the information to me as for taxpayer, how collected taxes it's divided, how much I support our country by paying taxes by myself, and what I can give back from state through different public services. How much money state spend on education or military or healthcare. And it's very important, and all those data already exist in our information systems. Another point is when I dealing with the businesses, and it's very good to know for me what information collected from Tax and Custom Board and how it mirrored back, how I look like through the view of tax administration. And it's very interesting to understand how all my economic data look like and help me in paying taxes and make some decisions to what I do next. Very important point of every company is, of course, the employees, and we are able also provide more interesting information about employees to employer, to compare different working groups, showing how much taxes paid from one to another group, how it also divided through different services, and provide some additional information to compare some staff groups to the market, and showing how the salary look like from different roles and perspectives. The very important thing, I think, it's ratings. We do our risk analysis on information what we collected, and we can share it with all companies what we have. We can show them where things goes goodly and where we have some questions to our companies. And it's very easy to know letters, know calls, just showing what happens wrong, and companies by themselves can change some information and make all necessary things by themselves. Very important part is, of course, privacy. For sure, in Estonia, it's also so that I have to open my information for our company if I want, and only on that case, another companies can see also my economic data. And against that, I can ask to open some information from another company and look how the things goes according to taxation point of view. And I think it's very important because it's the one cornerstone of transparency and for showing what we all doing one thing, and it's the view help us to make some steps against the fraud, for showing that we are dealing or doing our things on total transparent way, and it's nothing secret what I have internally in my daily work. And very good to know what we can also provide information with different positions and showing and watching how I as a company look like in same domain or in same area. There is some similarities with another companies and where I have some problems, for example. And again, I can decide from that point of view, do something with my business, with my economy, took some steps to change my tax behavior. And everyone also can look on that and ask from me, as from the company, how my things going on, and imagine, for example, if I see some big company, as Nortal is, for example, please open some information how you look like in comparing with another ICT companies, and I can decide, in my opinion, how it goes. And I think it's the next step in so small country as Estonia to provide a more better way to understanding what all actions that's done from the government. It's transparent, and all what we are doing, it's doing just from the money what we all collect together, and it's very small thing that we can do as a tax and custom board, just mirror back information what we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Janek. It's very insightful. Next, we'll hear from Andres Raieste. Andres is the Senior Vice President of Public Sector here at Nortal. He's a leading public sector digital transformation expert with a career rooted in the Estonian digital innovation. He's driven major governmental reforms worldwide and co-authored several key papers on digitalization. Andres will provide a global perspective on the future of digital government. Over to you, Andres.
Thank you, Taavi. Hi. So after seeing the magic that of Janek's presentation, what the future services of tax administration might look like in Estonia or in different countries around the globe. So how to actually get there? And fundamentally, what you earlier saw in Janek's presentation, actually the underneath all of this, the tax administration is fundamentally still the same. There's still the same topics in the Estonian Tax and Customs Board, what they are, for example, in UK or in Germany or in Canada and all the other tax administrations around the globe. So fundamentally, the systems, they are similar. However, the key difference comes from the strategic focus and goals. So everything what Janek was presenting, in its way, it's trying to increase the tax collection and also increase public trust at the same time. And how to achieve it, there's just three things what all the strategy is focusing on. It's trying to nudge the taxpayers to change the taxpayer behavior from the very start of the lifetime of the taxpayer throughout the entire journey. So smart use of technology and service design to change and educate the taxpayer to incentivize correct tax behavior. Second, the strategy is to audit what matters the most. Again, smart use of data and understanding of how the entire economy works in order to focus the tax administration's priority towards where it matters really the most. And the third is about making it easy to comply. So what increases both the trust and efficiency at the same time is reducing the energy and the cost what is necessary to actually file taxes and also to process it at the same time. Again, this is the part where digitalization has increased both the efficiency and the trust by solving the same similar problem. So if we look at the journey what the Estonian Tax and Customs Board has gone through during the past 3 decades. So we start from the original problem that the Estonian Tax and Customs Board was solving was to increase its efficiency. So to increase the tax base. So the original solutions was to simply to survive and to increase the tax revenue. But let's be honest, the very first services that the taxpayers received, they were quite not that user friendly. So the local tax inspector around the corner provided in reality a better experience. And to solve that problem, to fundamentally increase the user friendliness and in that sense also the trust of the taxpayer significantly, this required a completely different approach. And this is what drove to the digitalization itself. So to decrease the cost of paying taxes, that required simplification of perhaps certain regulations and also making use of interoperability and data to simplify the experience for the taxpayer. This is where the Estonian Tax and Customs Board reduced for example, the effort to file taxes from several hours perhaps to simply 1 click. So the fundamental success of the Estonian Tax and Customs Board was to automate the experience for the taxpayer by making data useful. And this is what we call this digital tax administration in the end. And now, with post-digital tax administration, when all of this is done, then the goals itself have changed as well. That the nature of the tax administration becomes even wider, that if the efficiency is already really good, if the experience is already really good, then the tax organization itself can take a wider role in the society and provide better services to strengthen the economy and perhaps even the democratic process itself. And this is now the journey that the leading tax administrations worldwide together are exploring. And it's super exciting to be part of this journey as well. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for the presentations. We've covered a lot of ground today, and now it's time to dive deeper into our discussion. To get involved, please submit your questions using the link in the chat. We'll address as many as possible after the discussion in our Q&A session. Please share your thoughts and comments as well. We might not get through all the questions, so in case that happens, we will share our responses from the panelists later on in the chat. Feel free to cover any of the topics that were mentioned in the 3 presentations or something else. Let us know. Let's get started with our panel discussion now. Gentlemen, Sir Edward, you've seen the Estonian example. You've seen how efficient this system is. At the same time, you talked about the greenfield tax systems and the challenges that more traditional systems might face, and they're different. Like, in your view, how does the Estonian example, how would it actually work in a more traditional tax environment?
Well, I mean, I think it's fantastic. I mean, I would love that we could get to that position in the UK. as I said in my comments, we are burdened with the legacy, but in a sense, the physical legacy, the legacy of systems, can be overcome with time and investment. And the UK is getting there. I think the more interesting legacy is the cultural legacy, the approach to tax, the acceptance of a system of this kind. With some of these issues about information sharing and transparency. And we have a saying about an Englishman's home is his castle, which carries the implication that no one comes past my door. Tax man, no one comes past my door. And I think in the sort of societies we live in now, we've got to break that down a bit because everything is so interlinked. I think one of the advantages, and it's a challenge for Andres and Janek that Estonia may have, is that you are a small enough country with a sort of a very turbulent history over the last century, which has possibly brought you together in a way which has created a willingness to accept this sort of change. The UK is sort of slightly fed up with everything, and if we could get the politicians to create a bit more sense of we need to do this together, but it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge, but we should be ambitious, as should all of the old world countries.
Janek, from your perspective, if you're following up on this, Estonia has been a leader. What do you think the more traditional or more advanced, more complex tax systems can take from the Estonian experience?
I think the same. Despite that, we started to build our country together, society together, believe on that through doing all stuff together we can achieve something. But still, I think if we put on the top of the corner the satisfaction of the client, so understanding what we really need and help them on that direction, it could be one takeaway of that. Despite that was the purpose is, but to explain what we are waiting from the society, and when society understand what it is, to make it easy. Yeah. To make it easy, because we also faced in the beginning, as was mentioned, with the very ugly services, and it was very boring to use them. But on one day we decided, wow, why are we doing so? If we need the money, we have to make it simple.
Make it fun.
Make it fun, maybe on some cases. Yeah. And it was also crucial change of the minds to catch some bad guys through information system, but provide services for the people who wants to pay, who wants to take a part from the developing of the society. I think it's the way what we can share our story. I think that our story is different, but it's our, and we can share it, and maybe some countries can learn something from that.
I think there's a really important point, if I can come in, Darby, that shifting from the enforcement culture of having to chase everybody to the compliance culture of getting people to comply is absolutely critical. And you appear to have done that. And I think, as you say, there are a lot of countries that could learn, both from the value of doing that, but also how you've done it.
It starts from the people.
Yeah.
Be honest, because even in our tax authority, we still have some ugly tax officers, but still, it's just a few of them. Yeah. But in the beginning, it was very hard to explain what you not control, now you are served. It was total misunderstanding also in our point of view, but we take a decision what we will change the mindsets of the people. Yeah. And it was very hard. Some people leave the tax authority because it was not for them. Yeah. But it starts from the top management. And by the way, maybe you don't know, it was the year 2004, I think, when we start to be a part of European Union. The top manager from the banking sector comes to tax authority and start to run us and bring the service culture to tax authority. I think it was one crucial change in our history.
Interesting.
No, very true. I think, Sir Edward, you mentioned in your presentation earlier the 300 years of complex tax collection, which, I think has a lot of experience also in the organization, but also the society is used to that. Andres, you've personally worked on tax transformations in cultures that are very different. Like, how do you see the experience, first of all, from the more established tax countries, or from Estonia being accepted or being welcomed in countries that are, perhaps taking their first steps on serious taxation?
I think that the first step always is understanding where they're coming from. That every society who has their own tax system is in reality so deeply rooted in how that society works. And understanding that makes it only possible to offer relevant solutions to their problems. It's very easy to misjudge that, okay, simplify this or that, but that specific solution might be maybe become relevant for it down the line, but not necessarily solving or be acceptable in the society where they currently are right now. So societies are fundamentally different, and our collective experience is that there is no one size fits all. You cannot buy a modern tax administration in a box. It doesn't work like this. Like, every society has its own journey. There are best practices how to solve different sort of problems, but you need to understand the culture. You need to understand why the decisions, the fiscal policy looks like, what it does, how that society works, and only then it's possible to solve the problems in a way that is relevant to that society.
Thank you very much. Listening to you, gentlemen, it sounds a little bit like a utopian democratic paradise. Full transparency, everybody's happy. How would you characterize, the main real-world challenges? I think, Sir Edward, you touched upon the castle, being the barrier.
Look, sometimes when I see 3.0, it does feel quite utopian. And it feels that we have to live in a sort of happy, clappy world where everybody's so happy to pay their tax. And, that is never the case. People never want to pay tax. They accept paying tax. And as you, well, both of you have said, Janek and Andres, that, you have to get people, you have to give them the right service, and they have to be in the right mindset. I think the interesting thing is it isn't really dependent on the model of government. It's about the people, and it's about what people see, and it's about what is the social contract has a very particular meaning, sure. But the contract, what are the terms on which people participate in society, and what are the terms on which they are willing to pay tax, and how do we get them to buy into that willingness so that we have less enforcement? If I have the answer to that question, I would probably be president of some quite large country. But, I don't have it, but it is about understanding human beings. It's about communicating. It's about transparency. And I think there's an interesting thing, and Janek's experience with the tax administration here echoes what I have seen with other tax administrations. That all tax administrations work within their own, societies and their own cultures. My experience has been that they all think their own tax administrations are very particular and very different. But my experience is they're all exactly the same. All tax collectors have the same mindset. They all start, as you say, thinking everybody's bad and we've got to go out and get them. And I think the challenge for all tax administrations obviously is to have good systems, obviously is to have good public acceptance, but it's to affect the change within the organizations which you have described. And I would like to understand how you have done it. We tried to do it at HMRC. The first, well, I won't say the first, but one of the things was to change the description of the public we dealt with from taxpayer to customer. And that generated huge resistance within the organization. People did not like within the organization to call taxpayers customers. They were people who had to pay me tax. They're not customers. They've got to pay me some tax. And I think having affected that change, we are still a long way off where we'd like to be. But and in a sense, it's only a word, but it's a really important word. And it shows what you need to do. So you don't need a utopian paradise, but you do need a lot of transparency, as has been said, and you need good communications.
It's a very good point, because it's not so about simplicity, but we also have to explain how it really works. Because if it's just a black box, it's simple,
Yeah.
but I have no ideas how it works, where the money goes, what happened with the money, and what I can get from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's never work, and I think it's the also work of the tax authority to explain why you have to pay what amount of money, how much, why it's so, how it's calculated. We can debate, ask us. We provide you some additional services to explain. You are not alone with that. I think it's the main idea. Please ask, and we are answer. And firstly, ask. Do nothing if you don't understand. Ask. We will help you. And after that, you will do it correctly. And I think step by step, who's building trust is help us. Yes, of course, we are small. We know each other maybe more or less, but still, we have to explain every day why it's so, why it's working on that direction, not on this one. And again, only 3% of society wants to cheat somewhere.
Yeah.
And all our people just want to live and enjoy the life. And I'm totally agree. They don't want to communicate with the tax authority. That's why we have to make it simple.
Yeah, and I smile because, you know, if I try to explain the UK tax system to someone, I can't, because we have a very complex system. And that is another barrier to your first question.
Yeah.
Why is it so difficult for us? Because it's so complex, and that requires political will to change the tax rules. But that's a subject for another seminar, I think.
But by the way, on the topic of trust, very often, if we have visitors coming here looking at this system from the older world, they think that somehow our society works so differently that we have this trust like built into ourselves. But that's absolutely not so. So my argument is that we're just as paranoid as everybody else, but we have solved
healthy,
that.
I think,
You've solved the paranoia
but we have
problem.
solved that problem entirely differently. So this trust is engineered actually.
Right.
So nobody. I believe that all human beings are fundamentally similar.
Yeah.
We are not that trustful in that sense. Trust is earned, and trust can be earned. Trust can be created, can be engineered, and the fundamental mechanism how societies navigate the trust question. This is actually what you can see that some institutions have succeeded with, some are on that journey still, and here. Like it's almost like the fundamental question about GDPR. You have some societies who are saying in Europe that you have GDPR, you cannot do anything. We say that's why we can do everything. So fundamentally different. So we have transparency. I feel that I own my data. I trust Janek to safeguard my data. And what's going on with this data in reality, I also feel that brings back to the society in that sense to myself. And now is the question. How do you uphold that social contract?
Yeah.
And if I could add, it's very important to point of the data ownership. What we're trying to push for, the data belongs to me.
Yeah.
But I, as a representative of authority, care about the data which not belongs to me, but given to me to operate with that. And I think it's the very important mindset to understand it and believe on that. And of course, transparency. And it was a very good point that through technology, we provide transparency because everyone can check what happened with the data which managed by governmental institutions. And it's again one step closer to the trust, to the building trust.
Yeah.
In this constant state of change, I think that the role of the tax administrator is also changing. So Edward, maybe first to you, I think there's increasingly discussion also between the political philosophies whether taxation can be a tool for boosting economic growth, for example. How do you view this?
This is something I've spent a lot of my career on because I've argued strongly against the use of tax instruments to achieve economic change, because the lesson in the UK is they generally don't succeed. But those who would say against me, they'd say, but all tax changes things. And my answer to that tends to be, well, but you never quite know how it's going to change things. So I would say that the tax collector's job is to get the money in and let the ministers and the politicians decide how to spend it. If they want to change society, they can do that. It's not our job to try and change society or economics do the tax system. But, there are other views are available.
From our point of view is, as you mentioned, of course, politicians make the plans and we are trying to just collect. But again, in my opinion, every authority can make one step more to explain what we are doing with the, I don't know, data, money, or whatever we collect, and give the feedback to society. And again, we come back to trust issue, and together to build this trust. But still, yes, overall, as you said, just collect
the money.
But what we can do in additional to explain why we do it.
Yes, but that's a bit short of actually trying to change the economy by using the tax system to favour particular.
But still, as was mentioned in my presentation, we can show some economic metrics for helping businesses to make some decisions. Of course, we can change the policy of taxation area, but we can provide some additional data to help some businesses in specific areas to make some more clever decisions. For example,
decisions of the business, not for government to decide.
Exactly.
Good to go really a little bit to the realm of science fiction here. Like, think in the future that if the services are so good, the services that you get from the tax administrations are so incredible that you think of paying taxes no longer as of paying taxes, but buying business consulting.
No, fair enough.
Well, given all the expertise here, and Sir Edward, to your earlier comment, we are doing this discussion in September 2024. So there's a fairly big country selecting a president in 6 weeks or so. So maybe you should sign up.
So, I think not. I wasn't born there.
Absolutely true. Thank you very much. We have received actually quite many questions, and we have selected a few to discuss right now. And I'll, would please have all of you to share your comments on the following. We have one from, if I'm not mistaken, from the UK, actually. How can the future tax system support work to reduce the tax gap, especially in regard to VAT and the small business declarations?
Sounds like one for me. Sounds like a very UK question that the tax gap, which is the tax that is not paid, that should be, in a sense, it is the task of the tax administrations to eliminate the tax gap. What we haven't talked about today is cash.
Sure.
We've assumed everything's about digital and financial transactions can be tracked. The problem of cash and the tax gap that generates is, persistent across all economies. I mean, it is worse in some than in others. And actually, I haven't seen any really good answers to that question. Mm-hmm. And, what we're trying to do is get people away from cash, but it is very persistent. And, I think it will last for some time. Anyone who has the answer of how to deal with cash transactions, the hidden economy, could get a valuable role in a tax administration. But Janek, how do you deal with the cash economy in Estonia?
We are dealing with that, but still, lucky us, even in so money point of view, we are also quite digital. I don't remember, by the way, when I lastly used the cash. Yes, and I think it's normal here. Yes, of course, all grey economy or some criminals use the cash, and it's the problem. But I think it's not so big problem here in Estonia. But still, it exists. But again, if we even think about those tax gaps or something like that, again, through the data, we can show what kind of services we can get because of the gap.
Yeah.
Again, we can make a discussion in society. Imagine if you pay for us, we can give you new services back. Of course, it's again like something strange, but again, it's one more step what we can do.
Yeah.
And of course, there's also like trends that are quite controversial. For example, cryptos, which is simply another form of cash in that sense, but even more dangerous. Yeah. So also, like,
yes, because it could be
why some governments would be supporting cryptos on a national scale is something that I fail to understand, actually.
Yeah.
I think saying crypto is dangerous is a controversial topic, and we'll have some of the viewers perhaps comment on this later, because obviously it also has been seen as a huge innovation. But I already see some questions coming in. There's a reaction to we had a discussion earlier about tax systems or tax administration being used to boost economic growth, and there's a reaction here. What about social goals? Behavioral change. How do you see that?
I think the same thing applies. Trying to change personal behaviour through the tax system. Certainly, the British view is, I'll decide what I do in my own home. I don't need the tax system to tell me. We do have a relief for marriage in the UK, and I think it's a very bad idea.
Okay.
In my opinion, if we will be more transparent and explain how it really looks like and goes, and people in different level, even in school, start to understand how it really works, how the money flows goes from businesses through government to the services and back. I think it's the one way to make it more understandable for broader society. But again, it's all
changing behaviour, or getting people to understand it better.
The changes start with understanding.
Yeah.
If I understand, it's first step to make some changes.
Make a better citizen.
Exactly.
I fully agree.
Please. Maybe then I also see that we are running out of time, and we have, I think, a wonderful question for the end. Gentlemen would really like to have your view on this. So how will AI and the blockchain transform tax administration?
It's my favorite question always, and it's very good at blockchain. Today it's AI. Yesterday's was blockchain. I don't know what will tomorrow, but still we have to use technology for some additional value, not technology for technology, because we are not startup, we are not innovative bureau to play with the different innovations. But of course, if it works, we can take it and do something valuable with that. But actually, all what I presented a few minutes before, it's done by but not use any blockchain, any AI. It's just classical ICT solution what we can use and provide the service.
I sort of agree with that. I mean, blockchain was always an answer looking for a question, and I'm not sure anybody's found the question to which blockchain is the answer. AI is clearly a step change in a path on which we have been traveling for some time, which is increased use of analytics to help us in our job, and it will potentially accelerate that. But as Janek says, it doesn't change the fundamental challenges which we have as tax administrations.
Exactly.
There is one study by OECD, that 2023 Trust Survey, which I love, that kind of points out very clearly that what actually builds trust in a society. And by far the highest ranking is to actually make things reliable, make it work. Yeah. And the lowest score, what increases trust can actually even be counterproductive to lowering trust, is by focusing on innovation in a very public way. Because like in the end, a regular person doesn't care what powers it. They want it to work.
They just want it to work. Yeah, just do it.
Thank you very much. We actually have a follow-up question from the audience, which we will unfortunately have to leave for the comments, regarding the changing composition of GDP, which of course will affect also how tax is collected. But we'll get through those questions and provide answers to our audience in the chat. So please do follow up. I would really, first of all, like to thank you, gentlemen, for the insightful discussion. Thank you for traveling to Tallinn. We have wonderful weather here today. As we wrap up, I would like to ask each of you for, perhaps a key takeaway for our audience to remember from today as they navigate the future of taxation.
You need to take the people with you, but you also need to take the politicians with you.
I guess sometimes politicians are people too.
They have roles as people, but I'm thinking of them in their role as politicians.
Sure.
From my side, it's all keep it simple and understandable and build trust on that.
Yeah.
From my side, you cannot skip steps that are necessary to achieve what we call tax administration 3.0, but it's possible to significantly accelerate it by learning from different places. And whatever somebody is promising, it doesn't come in a box. The organizations themselves need to understand that each society has its own journey.
Very well. Gentlemen, again, I thank you very much for your discussion and sharing the thoughts. We do appreciate everybody who joined in today. To stay updated on future events and access to additional resources, please do follow us on LinkedIn with Nortal. Also visit us at nortal.com and also personalgovernment.com. Thank you very much.